Morning and welcome to the Ashes to Rubies conversational podcast on life in recovery.
Happy being alive.
We talk about all sorts of things, and today we'll try to keep it not uncomfortable.
I thought you would have something to follow that, but you didn't. So what I would ask as a woman.
That was yesterday.
No.
We're not going to do that again.
But I have another woman thing. And
No.
It's not a woman thing. No. As a woman, what's your favorite piece of clothing? Like from a hat to a scarf to socks. What's your favorite piece of clothing to put on?
Well, I used to love jewelry.
Jewelry. That's a hard word to say.
And
jewelry.
That just stopped in the last year and a half. I was like, should I just get rid of all this?
I know. I wore my watch out the other day and it was like, oh wow, the battery's dead. But I have another watch. And cologne.
What's
Remember
my favorite
cologne?
piece of clothing? I love big sweaters. We've already talked about that in the past on this podcast.
Like the poncho sweater?
I just love big sweaters.
What do I call it? The cape sweater, the dangly big.
Any big sweater.
I would say that my favorite item of clothing is definitely not pants. I would say it's hooded sweatshirts, sweated hood shirts.
There we go.
Yeah, I would say hoodies are my favorite. Or I like sandals with socks.
Okay.
I know. It's frustrating to you. But
I would love to read all sorts of comments about the sandals and socks.
At my age, it's like a faux pas. Like that is like the whole dad movement of horrific styles.
Right.
Okay. So it was 2 years. 2 years ago. 2 years ago, me and my son were leaving the house, and we have both Birkenstocks. And he was wearing socks with those. And I said, that's a faux pas. And he looked at me, deadpan, and said, the only faux pas is having a faux pas, sucker. And I was like, I'm going to put socks on my sandals. And so there's no stink, there's no stick, there's no sweat. Oh.
You've worn socks and sandals ever since. And
yeah.
I am
even in the winter.
I'm not on board.
Socks and sandals.
Is there something else?
Okay, not knee-high socks, not white socks, like sport black socks that you would wear with your running shoes.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about? I'm trying to shift gears.
Gears. You're a gear shifter.
This is boring conversation.
Okay, then. Us in our big sweaters and socks and sandals. What do you prefer to wear? What's your preferred item of clothing? It could be cologne, too. Some people like cologne. I think cologne has had its day. Like
lots has changed in the last year and a half.
Yeah, cologne isn't as cool as it used to be. Remember, I have a cologne collection at a low level. All right, let's get into our reading. It is Wednesday, the midweek. We have our LifeLab Connect group today at noon. JoJo is speaking. Do you know the topic?
I do. Her title is All In.
All in. So come and join us at noon. Until then, let's get our meditation devotional on. It is September the 29th. Here we go. You ready? Yep, you're ready. Someone suggested. Okay, so this is an Al-Anon spin. Someone suggested. That probably rarely happens, eh? That was a joke. Someone's probably already suggesting so much stuff. Someone suggested I'm sorry, I apologize.
Just read the reading.
Someone
How
suggested.
Much coffee did you have this morning?
I know, it's just kicking in right now. Someone suggested we add another slogan to those we use in our Al-Anon 12-step group. Here's the slogan: listen and learn. My first reaction was, no, not everybody at a 12-step meeting has something helpful to say. What about those who advise, throw the bomb out? Doesn't that negate everything we're supposed to hear in the Al-Anon program? But wait, what I learn from the negative comments can be useful in opening my mind to my own wrong thinking. When someone gives advice, I can say to myself, we're not supposed to advise in a 12-step program. If someone expresses hostility and resentment for what the alcoholic does, it can teach me to avoid those very things in myself. Today's reminder: listen and learn. is sound doctrine if we use it well. We don't make significant progress in our thinking if we're only listening to ourselves talk. Here's a quote from William Shakespeare. It is the disease, if not listening, that I am troubled with. I don't know what that means. That's a hard one. It is a disease of not listening.
It is the disease
One
of
little
not
word,
listening.
It is a disease of not listening that I am troubled with. And here's another quote from I don't know who. I pray that I may learn from listening, whether or not I agree with what I hear. Ooh, there.
So start off by telling me why you, in your opinion, why in 12-step groups or in that kind of group format do you not give advice? Or why do you not give advice?
Well, we
in life?
like to play God. That's our natural position. And so we like to give advice for everybody else, and we like to tell everybody what we've learned.
Use I statements.
I like, yeah, but I don't do it. But
Anymore.
I can, yeah. So then I like to share what I've done and how it's worked out and what you shouldn't do and should do, because I know what's best for you. It's basically because I've recovered, I've done well. I have 2 kids that graduated the high school. So I'm doing pretty well, and I have a depth of knowledge and understanding about life, and I'm here to actually give it away for free. And so you should listen to me. And if you don't listen to me, you're probably going to make mistakes and fall flat on your face. So when you do that, come back to me. That is playing God. Advice giving, we don't want to rob people of their experiences, but we can share our experience, but we are very slow on giving advice because that's really not a healthy thing to participate in.
And so what has been your experience of giving advice that has gone wrong?
One, they come to rely on me, using I statements. One, they can come to rely on me. And then 2, if I give them advice that actually gets them hurt, like maybe they get kicked out of their house because they were being honest or whatever it was, then they blame me. And so I'm actually in between them and God. And I don't want to lead people for me to be the higher power.
Yeah, I really agree with that. And I can really see that, especially because oftentimes people want to hear our story and what happened with us. Especially like a woman who's dealing with someone who's alcoholic or an addict. She'll call me, oh, my husband's doing this, my husband's doing that. What should I do? What should I do? Well,
you don't want to do what we did.
Yeah, don't do what I did.
You might see our lives today.
Yeah. But also, what I did do might go completely different for you.
Yeah.
Something could go terribly wrong. Like what I did may not work out the same way
because people see that we were in an addictive relationship and now we're not. So what did you do?
Right.
And I think we just point people to God. Like, what's God saying for you to do? Because it's like somebody seeing me with a high school graduation certificate and they're like, oh, how did you do that? Teach me what you did. I'm like, you do not want me to teach you how to study, no.
Barely passed.
And I had to go, no. Yeah, and you don't want it to copy me. Like, yeah, I just want to cheer you on in your relationship with God. Like, our goal is to lead them to the one with all the answers, the one with all the power, the one that's actually going to transform your life.
So let's talk about, as seekers, when I first went to a meeting, when I first started going to meetings, and it's the same thing. So when I first started going to meetings, I was in a pretty desperate place and listening was very hard. There was so much inside of me that there was so much happening inside of me. Like I was so full of the chaos and the drama and the story and the hurt and the anger. I was so full that all I wanted to do was talk.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in a meeting, when I went to 12-step meeting, it was like a place where people would listen.
Mm-hmm.
And all I wanted to do was talk, just tell my story. Like, oh my goodness, here's a captive audience that's going to listen. So that's not,
and they have to practice love and tolerance.
Have to practice love and tolerance. So that's not, to get from that place where I have a little bit of, I can slow down and I can listen and receive. I did start to learn. I really did there was, and you're kind of forced to in those meetings, because everybody, if you have a good group, sort of group moderator, you know, um, everyone has like a period of time, and you can't dominate the whole meeting, which is good when you have someone like me in the meeting, because I would back then I would have dominated the whole meeting.
You're spiking my adrenaline right now, and this is why. Because that's not what meetings are for. They're not for dumping. They're not for
and that's what people think.
I know, and meetings can be super unhealthy, and we go to meetings to feel better, but we don't go to meetings to become better. And so they can be a dumping ground. They can, that's a whole different conversation.
So talk about our weekly Connect meeting and the purpose of it.
Yeah, so we do a share. So somebody shares their experience on a topic, and then we get to relate to that share. And so it's not a dumping ground. It's an encouraging.
It's a recovery focused share.
Yeah, it's not a problem focused share. Like, oh, my life is so bad. And I remember my early recovery going into these meetings, and like there was people that were years sober, and they're complaining about the bus driver and like not being able to work, and it's like, this is frustrating to be in. I apologize for my jadedness. I go to meetings with my recovery. And so I think recovery is the foundation of our lives, and we go into the places. So I think it's really suggested to do recovery before we go into meetings.
Well, or if I can come into a meeting.
And that's controversial.
I came into a meeting and was surrounded by loving, caring people who did give me space, because I would go early and I would stay late. And so they gave me space where I could talk and connect. But during the meeting, I would hear people's experience that I could relate to. And so then I heard, and I remember a very significant actually meeting where I went to, where it was not recovery focused. I went for a while, and it showed me exactly what I did not want for my life. And I knew, I was like, I don't want this. I don't want to figure out how to tiptoe around an alcoholic for the rest of my life.
And I hope people don't hear me wrong. I'm not saying don't go to meetings, but we have the tendency to go to meetings to feel better, to consume, and then get back to our normal lives. And we're not really in recovery. We're just trying to get pain relief. So don't hear me that like we need to go to meetings and find people that can take us through the work of recovery. But meetings aren't the work of recovery at all.
Right.
Meetings don't keep you sober.
Get into the work of recovery.
Yeah, God will keep you sober. So we can be a participant in meetings in a positive way. There's way more to that. Listen to learn. What I'm going to take out of this for my day is what it's speaking to me. I can learn from every situation. If I'm just listening, I can hear and listen and get a lesson out of everything, because God is going to filter everything to me, and everything can be a lesson. Amen. All right, guys, see you at noon. Keep the peace and be of good behavior, and wash your hands.